Hey, welcome back to the Built to Last show. I have got my good friend Dana Earhart with us today. She's a business growth strategist, woman of my heart, because we love business, we love growth, and we love strategy here. So, Dana, welcome to the show. I'm so excited for all the value that you're going to bring to our listener today.
Well, thank you. I am excited to be here and to really just share and have a great conversation and know that your audience will take away a few nuggets.
Amazing. So I am a really big fan of learning about the human being behind the business. And I love stories. So maybe this isn't the most popular question that people get asked as a first question on a podcast, but I would love for you to share why you were even led to be a business owner. Most of us had a career before or some sort of job before. Most of us didn't just, graduate high school and start a business or go to college and then leave and start a business. We kind of meandered our way to this point. So I'd love to hear about your pathway and your journey to even doing what you're doing today.
Absolutely. You are 100% accurate. I was in corporate consulting. In my 20s, I set out to be that strong, independent female executive. I was going to climb the corporate ladder and just trust that the husband and kids that was just going to happen, but that would be down the road. Right now, it was about the career. And in my 20s, that's exactly what I created. I had phenomenal opportunities. I had great success. I was traveling the country, leading a team of 100 individuals. And then three things happened. And those three things were 9/11. And I had actually flown to Manhattan on September 9th, and I was there on the 9th and 10th, and I was boarding a plane on the 11th. 2 months later, I turned 30. And 2 months after that was my first time in the emergency room and being sent to a cardiologist for follow up at the age of 30. I was fortunate. It was not my heart, it was stress and anxiety because the only life I knew at that point was work. Like even my friends and my social network were colleagues. And I also had no idea how to let things roll off my shoulder. So the 30s was really my search of, okay, I do like my career. I do want to have a family. And I'm not sure who Dana is when she's not at the office. And so the 30s was really exploring who I am behind the scenes, who I want to be behind the scenes. And I was introduced to a personal growth and development company, PSI Seminars, and I absolutely drank the Kool-Aid, went on to do 5 different levels of leadership courses with them, spending 3 or 4 weeks up on a ranch in Northern California. Um, it was some in-depth work, and I continued on the path of my career, and I also got married and had my son 2 months before turning 40. And this was really that pivotal time of he was about 9 months old. The first 6 months, I didn't have to travel. 6 months in a day, I was booking my next airline because I that was our business. We went and consulted in person with clients. And I remember sitting in a hotel room, when my son was about 9 months and just crying, knowing that I love what I do and I didn't wait this long to become a mom, to be sitting by myself in a hotel room. I wanted to be at home with him. And so I really started exploring, okay, how do I reinvent myself? How do I take my experience, my expertise, my passion now for personal growth and development and really combine that? Because I had the operations, the leadership, the strategic planning from 20 years leading teams of up to 100. There was plenty of the tangible strategy and experience and the personal growth and development. And that's when I realized that that's what small business owners would benefit from the most is someone who can bring both aspects to what they're doing, because you can have the best strategies, and if you don't have the mindset and the leadership skills, you're not going to be able to sustain any growth achieved. And if all you're focusing on is the personal growth and the leadership, you're going to miss out on some of the strategy that's going to help you get there, create more success faster. And that's really how the business was born. And that was 13 years ago. My son just turned 13. So I guess it'll be 13 years in February that I've been in my own business.
Yeah, it's so funny. That's how I now know how many years I've been in business because we have one daughter. She is 14. So our
Okay.
kids are really close in age. She turned 14 in September of 2024. She's in 8th grade. And I was a high school teacher. That was my first career in my 20s. And similar to you, I wasn't getting on planes and flying anywhere. I was stationary at the schoolhouse, but I was one of those teachers who was the first one in the building. I got to school before 7 a.m. I was one of the last ones to leave. I remember the janitors would have to kick me out because usually the janitors are the last ones in the building and they've got the
Right.
keys and they're usually, they don't leave till after dark. And I was the tennis coach, the football athletic trainer, the FBLA. I was doing all the things, right? So a teaching job that's like for most teachers, 7:45 to 3:15 was more like 6:45 to 7:30 for me, and then working on the weekend. So I've got some follow-up questions to what you said, but it's funny that you were sharing about your son and his age because I left the classroom when I had Brighton, which
Hmm.
was very uncharacteristic for me because it was work, 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 work.
Right.
And yeah, I started my coaching business about a year into being a mom. So, but that's how I'm like, how many years have I been in business? How old is Brighton? That's how I know.
Yep.
Okay. So here's a question for you. I think a lot of us, not everybody who starts a business, but a lot of us who do, and I would put myself in this boat as well, whether it was corporate or you were a nurse or a teacher or something. We worked a lot.
Mhm.
And we're high achievers, we're high performers, we might be borderline perfectionists. We want to
Mhm.
get it right. We're responsible, dependable, we want to do a really good job. And, I think a lot of us probably experienced some degree of burnout or exhaustion and just quite frankly being overworked.
Mhm.
So, how have you been able to transition from kind of that identity? And I mean, you were really trained. I mean, you probably were like a little wired that way anyway, but then that kind of trained you to be that way. My mom was a teacher and that's how she was. So, that was kind of my training. So, I just followed suit as a teacher and worked all the time.
Yep.
How did you, kind of drop that identity and not take it with you into entrepreneurship? Because you and I both see a lot of business owners who grind it out, hustle it out, just pay attention to work, forget we have a family.
Yep.
And then, you see people who are like, I got to go on a 6 month sabbatical, a year long sabbatical. Let me stop my business for a year because they're so burned out. So, what did that process look like for you?
Wow, I just caught myself getting emotional as I was thinking about it. And it's, being an older mom, being 40 when I had my son, I was pregnant again after that and lost our second child, attempted IVF, that was unsuccessful. And so I had never thought of life without children. I'm incredibly grateful to have my son. And yet, having one, I think really helped get me grounded in how I did not want to have regrets when he was an adult, whether he's college or after college. I didn't want to regret and wish I had spent more time with him. And so that really became my anchor. While I think we all go into business thinking, freedom, we want financial freedom and time freedom. And I certainly was that. What I've come to realize now that he is a teenager is that I was really focused on the time freedom initially. And this past year, I think I'm like, I need to adjust my why because at 13, he doesn't need me as much. He doesn't necessarily want mom around as much. Um, and so it is adjusted, but it's still very, very grounded in wanting to be there, make him breakfast, be there after school, be able to take him to the sports practices, of course, be there for the games. Unfortunately, my marriage did not work. So I'm a single self employed mom who shares custody. And I think that also really helped ground me. And every other week, I don't have him. So the week I do have him, I may have shorter hours and I love that flexibility. And the week I don't have him, I can be working more hours that week. And so I've gotten really good also at adjusting my schedule based on his school schedule and his sports schedule. And I'm very proactive in making sure that those personal commitments that I hold sacred, those are on the calendar first and foremost. And I truly, as I do with all of my clients, I make sure we're building a business that supports the life that they want.
Yeah, that was I literally as you were talking, I'm like, I bet you have clients where it is so backwards and
Yeah.
it is so upside down. And I think, like you, many of us left whatever our previous career was because we desired more freedom, more
Mhm.
financial freedom, more time freedom, more freedom to be with our kids, to be with
Mhm.
our loved ones, to do what we want to do when we want to do it. Why have you found, just from working with a lot of clients, obviously you see a lot of the same things happening
Mhm.
behind the scenes. You see
Mhm.
a lot of patterns. What are some of the most common patterns that you're seeing with the business owners you're working with that are really causing, whether it's a lot of, this is going to be kind of a two-part question. So,
Mhm.
whatever way you want to take this, because the patterns that you're seeing, it's either creating a whole lot of chaos in the business
Mhm.
and or it's creating a lot of chaos in life.
Right.
Whether it's I now have health problems or my marriage is suffering
Mhm.
or I'm literally missing my kids growing up
Yep.
or whatever the case may be. What are some of those most common patterns or almost like approaching this whole business building thing backwards? What do you see most commonly?
I think you just said the word, it is backwards. And I also think people approach creating success backwards because they really hone in on what needs to be done. And they get caught up in the quote unquote busyness of the day that they have to be doing, and they become masters, whether it's a solopreneur in their first six figures or a CEO with a team of 15, 20, 30 individuals running a multi-million dollar organization. If you are not careful, we get pulled into, as you said, all of those characteristics. We're driven, we're a slightly perfectionist, we have a passion for our business, for our respective industries, and we want to be successful. So we get focused on what needs to be done without pausing to ask ourselves, when we set goals, when we set KPIs, when we set milestone markers, it's not just about what needs to be done. It's asking, who do those goals require me to be? And when you
Mhm.
can focus on the beingness, you have actually, and many people don't necessarily realize that if I'm focused on becoming the CEO that my business requires, the doing becomes much more natural and much more intentional. So I'm no longer focused on just being busy. I'm focused on being productive. I'm focused on moving that needle forward. Um, and so I think what I see as a pattern is we may start out that way. And if we don't set checkpoints for ourselves to check in with who we're being, we suddenly forget who we're being because we're just focused on the to-do list and we're focused on what's still in our inbox that needs addressing.
Yeah.
And by far, that's when laptops start going home for nights. They go home on the weekends, and all of a sudden, the creep is there big time until there's burnout. And then the burnout is something's got to change. What is it? Do I need to lower my goal? Do I need to reduce team? Do I need to let go of clients? What is it? And instead of thinking, what can I do? What talent can I bring in? What systems can I put in place? Am I even clear on where our best profit margins are? Because I think that's another pattern I see is that owners will focus on service offerings without looking at which one is most profitable, which one makes the most sense. I'm not saying that yesterday I was on a call, it was a colleague of mine who was talking about going two different directions in her business because she liked serving both parties. But what she didn't know, and she acknowledged in that call, is she didn't know which had a greater profit margin. they're very different selling prices. So we were all pretty clear on where the greater profit margin would be. But I think that's crucial is knowing your numbers.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I'm so curious what you have to say about this. I see a lot of business owners who are creating offers and designing a business, sharing content that is very much based off what they want to talk about, what they want to do, who they want to serve. Kind of like this colleague you just described. It's like, well, I have these two different segments of the market that I want to serve.
Mhm.
And I see that a lot as well,
Yep.
especially with coaches who are a little bit newer, and you go look at their content, you go scroll around on social media, and you can tell there's really no rhyme or reason to what they're saying. They're just kind of
Yep.
saying what they wake up and are inspired to say every single
Yep.
day. But there's also what the marketplace wants,
Mhm.
right? Like, what does the marketplace want? Also, what does your business need in order to stay healthy? And I've
Correct.
always believed as the business owner, my job is to keep the business healthy. And one of the, I mean, I'd say like the top thing is you got to make sure the business is financially healthy.
Mhm.
So, what are some practices that you help your clients put into place such that they are making decisions that keep the business financially healthy? And I would love for you to answer this kind of looking into the future, into 2025. I think whatever, there's so much conversation about economic downturn, recession, this, inflation, that. Like, it's not like we're not kind of sort of in it. But I also think, what's going to happen in 2025? I think there's going to be some stuff with real estate, maybe some crashes there. Let's just hypothetically say that we have a bit of a more economic downturn that we've experienced into 2025. How can we as business owners be making really sound decisions to keep our businesses financially healthy in 2025?
Great, great question. And, I will say I am one of the first people who, while I will pay attention certainly to trends, I'm also quick to not get caught up in the drama of it.
That's good. 'Cause
um,
that's easy. That's easy to get
yes.
caught up in it. Yeah.
And, from day one, I have been really clear, even in my own business, is I am not here to be serving hundreds of thousands of individuals. And that's even from a competition standpoint. I have never been as concerned about that because there's plenty of business opportunities out there. I have clients who have doubled revenue this year, from 900,000 to 1.8 million in gross revenue, and it's a 4-year-old company. And so even though there are challenges, I also think we can create what we are committed to and what we are intentional and strategic in doing. And so, as you were talking about with the marketing, first and foremost, be clear on who you are serving. I know when I first started, I'm like, well, I can help any business. And yes, I probably could. And I quickly learned you can't have marketing that hasn't decided on a niche. So know who your avatar is and really dig into not just the demographics, but the psychographics. Really get clear on the verbiage that they use, what words resonate with them, and use that. So when you're talking to people, when you're on sales conversation, really be tracking the words they use, not the words you interpreted it to be.
Mhm.
And that can be tricky because may have words, and this speaks to marketing that we think people want to hear. Well, make sure you're putting some strategy behind that and making sure that it really resonates, that you're touching on the pain points and challenges that your client is currently experiencing, and be that solution to it. Um, I think, and I just went blank on where I was going. So, did that touch on what
Yeah.
you were looking for there?
Yeah. And, something as I'm listening to you, I'm just thinking of what I hear a lot of clients say who are closer to a million a year
Mhm.
and those that are just over a million a year. They will say, and you alluded to this earlier, like, I don't want to slow down.
Mhm.
And I know that when you work with clients, sometimes you have to hit the pause button. You do have to slow down to work on whether it's training your team or SOPs or putting the right systems in place or making more strategic decisions instead of just doing and doing and doing and doing every single day. Like you said, it's like, how do you like, do you even know you're profitable with what you're
Right.
doing and what you're selling and the way you're doing it? Why do you think that at that range, again, it's like 750,000 to about 2 to 3 million. And it's like they're just so they can be very stubborn
Mhm.
about I'm not going to slow down and nobody's going to slow me down. But there's like chaos and there's confusion and there's overworking, there's micromanaging, there's not being clear on what the KPIs are, not being
Right.
clear what the financials are, not being clear on what the profit is, sometimes not even being clear on like where are we actually headed.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Like what inside of the entrepreneur is almost fearful? Because it's I think it's very fear-based. I think it's coming from a very fear-based place. What are they afraid of?
Yeah, I think sometimes it's fear-based, but sometimes it's truly that you don't know what you don't know. And so, I had a client that we recently started working together in the last few months, and they were right underneath the seven-figure mark. They're now over the seven-figure mark. And they were working with a bookkeeper who was handling their books. And if they didn't get the books till the 20th, 25th of the next month, or, oh, we'll review that quarterly, I was like, No, you want to be looking at your P&L, your balance sheet at least once a month, and ideally, you want it within the first 5 to 10 days of the following month. Rapidly close that month and then be looking at it, because otherwise you aren't leading your business. You are truly just looking at it after the fact. Um, Again, when I was on a call yesterday, it was a fantastic call talking about the difference between, how quickly you can move a little dinghy boat versus when you have a big ship, it takes longer. And so where we can make quick, rapid changes, like starting to look at financial reports at least monthly. Some cases you want to be looking at it twice a month. Look at it mid-month because you still have a chance to actually shift where that month is going to close. So in this case, it was that they just didn't know. They were so successful. The money was in the bank. They could just keep moving forward. So they were focused on the delivery because they knew the money was coming in. Now I have other clients where money's getting tight, then they're looking at it a little bit more. Then they are fearful of, we're at maximum bandwidth. We can't add more clients. But if we don't add more clients, we'll never get out of this cash crunch. And
Mhm.
so again, in that case, then it's dialing in, how can we strengthen the systems and the operations so that your existing team can actually increase the bandwidth, because then you can sell with more confidence knowing that you're not going to falter on your reputation from a delivery standpoint.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
And
Um, Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it is interesting. You spoke about the micromanagement, and I will say that the last 2 years has been interesting because I've actually come across a few business owners that have been incredibly successful at removing themselves from the day-to-day operations. Only before we started working together, they had removed themselves too far, and they no longer had their finger on the pulse of what the team was doing on a daily basis. And so it's been fascinating for me to realize that there are the two sides of the spectrum. There's the micromanagers and those that have removed themselves so far that they forgot that their role as a CEO is to continue to mentor. Because if you want to grow your business, understand that growing your talent is part of that. And it doesn't mean
Okay.
just adding more talent, it means mentoring them.
I want to sit on this topic for just a minute. So I see the same thing that you're talking about. And again, it's this area where people get stuck and it's like 750 grand a year to about 1.5, 2 million, 2.5 million. It's like right in there.
Yep.
And what I see happening is this is coming from like the person who's the business owner. Um what I'm seeing, and this is just my language, you might have different language, that's totally fine. The business owner is almost like trying to be a CEO way too soon. And what I mean by that, or their definition of CEO is like, I don't want to be involved in any of the day to day. I don't want to be involved with onboarding team, training team, mentoring team. Um, and there's this like uh, um, mentality that they still have to be, or they're being sucked into constantly having to micromanage. And then, sometimes you may even hear, I mean, I hear it when I go into businesses of that size. They're like, I don't want to be involved in all this stuff. I just want to do only what I can do. I want to go out. I want to like network with people. I want to like write my book. I want to do this. I'm going to do that. And I'm thinking, like, who's running your business?
Right.
And there's this confusion, I think. This is how I hear it. Well, I hired, not me, I
Mhm.
hired this person or you, whatever. You're the expert. You're the social media expert. You're the marketing expert. You're the operations expert. You're the whatever expert. You're the tech expert. You should just know what to do as soon as you get here. And then that's not the case.
Mhm.
But then from my perspective, I see so many team members, whether they're contractors, freelancers, part timers, full timers, they are literally being set up for failure the moment that they are hired. And they might be an A player and they might actually be the greatest expert the planet has ever seen in their area of expertise. But I would love to hear your perspective on this, Dana, because a lot of companies get stuck right there and they're trying to get to 5 million and then they're trying to get to 10 million, but they can't get past like one and a half, two. And this, what we're talking about here is one of the biggest reasons why they can't. So I would love for you to share, as the business owner, what is your role in this like 750 to 1.52 million? And at what point are you truly like, really able to take yourself out of a lot of the day to day? And what does that even look like? I think there is so much misinformation about your role as CEO and what CEO actually means in that particular range.
Absolutely. And I am a firm believer from a leadership philosophy. I believe that as the business owner, as the CEO, your job is one, to have a very clear vision that you can absolutely with certainty communicate to your team so that they have 100% clarity on the vision that is before them to grow this organization into. So it's vision, it's then ensuring that you have the right talent in place. And the reason I'm going to emphasize that is because I do believe it can be done in the range we're talking, 750,000 to 3.5, even up to 5 million. The CEO, it depends on the level of leadership you have under you. If you have a structure where you have someone who is ready to take on the COO role, whether it's that title or not, because titles get convoluted based on how you what job description you put to that title. If that individual can actually be the talent, the leadership for talent and the leadership for operations, you will have a better opportunity to truly pull away from the day-to-day operations. And then you're just focusing on the mentorship of that individual.
Mhm.
If you do not have that individual, you may have several leaders reporting directly to you. We do know that the sweet spot is typically 5 direct reports. Once you get to 7, you typically are at maximum capacity. You do not want to go over 7 direct reports, or you will not be able to provide quality leadership and mentorship to them. And so I believe, and I work with every single one of my clients, to be meeting consistently with the leadership team. And by consistently, I do mean at least twice a month, if not weekly.
Exactly.
I also believe in one-on-ones with your direct reports. Again, depending on their maturity within the organization and in their role, it might be weekly. At a minimum, it should be every other week. And at the end of every single one of those meetings, as the leader, I train my clients to be asking, what else do you need from me in order to be successful with what we've just discussed?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the empowerment of your team to be asking for what they need, to be thinking and be proactive in thinking about what they'll need, and to ensure that nothing can ever be said, well, I didn't have what I needed. What do you mean you
Mm-hmm.
didn't have what you needed? I asked you in every meeting what else you needed, and you said you were good. But I believe in the leadership where the leader is there to support the team, not to have the team just support them.
Yes, you just took the words right out of my mouth because that is a statement I hear often. You know, you're here to support me, meaning the CEO is saying that to the team. Like,
Yeah.
who's supporting me? Nobody's supporting me. Nobody has my back. I need you to have my back. And I do see that mentality from the CEO causing the company to not grow beyond a certain point
Right.
because your team is not there to support you. You are there to support your team so that they
Yep.
can do their best job. That's a mindset switch. That's a
Yep.
reframe. And I think until the CEO really understands that, their
Mhm.
leadership style is probably going to keep their company spinning where it's currently spinning.
Absolutely. And it's really the end result is, do you want to be grooming doers, or do you want to be grooming individuals who can think as well? And
Yeah.
leadership is a combination of the two. And so when you are in the level we're talking about as far as gross annual revenue, it's crucial to ensure that you're bringing up doers and thinkers, because without
Yeah.
the thinkers, that's when you're going to lead yourself to burnout, because nobody else is thinking big picture. They're just focusing on the task in the immediacy.
Yeah. Okay. I think where I want to land this plane, I've been sitting here wanting to have this part of the conversation, which we kind of did at a certain level. I would love to hear from you between like businesses that are just do like, revenue, 100K up to
Mhm.
10 million. What are the main places where businesses get stuck? We
Mm.
just talked about, we see people get stuck around like 750 trying to get to a million. You see people get
Yep.
stuck around like, so just kind of walk us through like where are the places where companies really get stuck and why are they getting stuck at those particular levels between like 100K to 10 million?
Yep. I think the first place of getting stuck is typically between 2 and 300,000, because they're moving out of being a solopreneur who might have admin support to actually bringing someone else on who can do what they do. I think there's another stuck point that, and it can be anywhere from about 550 to 750, because now you're building the team. You have a little bit of the systems, but it's not documented, and you're not sure that everybody's using those systems the same or to optimum efficiency. Then I think there's another one that happens. It's ironic that I do feel like 750 to about 1.2 is another section. And so where I
Yeah.
see the stuckness is about 1.2 to 1.5.
Mhm.
And then I see it, then we can make it all the way up to 3 million. And I think 3 to 5 is a little bit smooth sailing, maybe 3.3 to 4.5. So from 4.5 to 6 could be another breaking point. And then 10 million, I think, and beyond is a different bird. And there's where you get stuck is not as evident, because you can
Yeah.
have glitches here and there, but not necessarily full all out stuck plateaus.
Yeah. I would agree on all those. That's where you see it. That's where
Yeah.
you see people getting stuck. Amazing. So I would love for you to share, Tell us a little bit more about exactly who you're working with, size of
Mhm.
company you're working with, what you do with people, so that anyone listening to this, if they want to reach out to you to have a consultation and see what you can offer, they know how to reach you. And
Awesome.
yeah, share that.
Hey, thank you. It's I really break it into two as well. I have those that are already at seven figures and they are looking to grow. So they're over their first seven figures. They're wanting to grow to 3 to 5 million. I also have and these are all service-based businesses, I should add. I also have those that are in the mid to high six figures wanting to take it over seven figures. Those are really the sweet spots, and the industries vary within the service based. It could be attorneys, it can be other consultants. I have worked with gate security, HVAC, electric companies. I have a large behavioral therapy organization. She has a team of about 35 individuals. I also have clients who want to be franchising, who are franchising, or who are looking to open a second or third location. So those can be some of the um, really criteria of, okay, I've done it once. How do I replicate this in multiple locations? I'm excited. If you don't mind, I'd love to share about the book.
Yeah. Oh,
uh,
yes. Go for it.
okay. Uh, Out of nowhere, yet 30 years in the making, I am excited to share that I have published my first book called Lead with Purpose 52 Weeks to Ignite Growth. And it's really designed as a leadership devotional. My thought here was we are all busy, as we've talked about. We're busy. Hopefully, we're busy being productive. As a single self employed mom, I know what it's like to juggle a lot of balls. And that should never stop us from continuing to grow our leadership. And so this book was really designed with that in mind to show that with just a 5 to 10 minute investment of your time every single day over the course of a year, you can grow yourself and your leadership significantly. And so that book is available on Amazon and Kindle. And for your listeners, I would love to offer a free chapter of the book that they can download simply by going to danaearhart.com/resources.
I love that. So we'll make sure we put in the show notes links to the free chapter. Also, let's make sure we put in the show notes links to go purchase the book, either
Right.
the physical copy or the Kindle. So we'll
Okay.
take care of that. This has been awesome. Dana, your work is so needed in the world so that people can get beyond their stuck point and really just go make more income, yes, but also make a bigger impact on their clients, serving more people, but then also making a really lasting impact on their team. And I think that, yeah, you're helping people grow and scale and do the thing and do it well. And you're taking a lot of pressure off them. But I also see that you are really building true leaders who are impacting the lives of the team members around them, which I think that is such a special role to be playing with people, and to really mentor and guide them in their careers as well. So thank you so much for being on the show and sharing all your insight with us.
Well, thank you for having me. And I absolutely could be saying everything that you just shared about you and the work you're doing as well. So thank you for what you bring to the world.
Amazing. All right. Go check Dana out. Go grab her book. And until our next episode, remember to design a life and business that is built to last.